2021, 11 a.m. Welcome to our East Hampton Village Board work session. Before we get started, if we could stand for a pledge, which will be led by Kenny Cohen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kenny. So this morning we have a few things, a couple of presentations, and then the board's going to discuss a couple of items, and then we're going to go into executive session at the end of that meeting. So before we start, I just wanted to have one announcement. I just wanted to say the Centennial Weekend was unbelievable. I want to thank the committee, and I want to thank Hugh King for attending every event we had, and Sandra for heading up the committee. Thanks, Sandra. It was really a wonderful weekend. Started off on Friday night with the gala at the Maidstone Club, which was attended by about 200 people, and we had a ball. It was a really good time. And then Saturday we had that parade, which was probably one of the largest parades I've ever seen in East Hampton Village. So again, that was Chief Terza who headed that up for us. So that was very nice. And then we had Hugh in the reviewing stand, which was incredible, and Juliana Lester. And it's just a wonderful weekend, followed by the car show on Sunday, which we had about 85 cars in Herrick Park, vintage cars, and we gave out prizes at the end. And it was a great weekend. The weather was cooperative, and just want to thank everybody involved. Couldn't have done it without all of you. All right, so let's start off. Hugh, you're up first. Let's have your presentation.
Okay. I hope everyone has read the Newsday article by John Hank about the Domini workshops and the Domini house. If that would be wonderful if that article could be put on the village's website, because just as you educate the public for the reason to bond, say a system, the sewage disposal plant system, just as you educate the public, you tell them why you need to do it. You have people who come on who feel they need it. And when you change the zoning code for housing, you also educate the public for why you're going to do this. Well, this article is a wonderful example of why you're going to bond for the Domini house, okay? So I urge everybody to read that, and if it could be put on the village's website, I think that would be helpful, okay? Number one. Number two, Mrs. Lester and I had just about completed finding all the pictures of the mayors, okay? Thanks to David Rattray, we have found an image of Jeremiah Baker, the first mayor. Now, Mrs. Lester is going to have to work her magic to bring that up to snuff. We have Nelson Osborne. Sandra Fallhaber, the granddaughter of Dr. Russell, has just handed us a picture of Dr. Russell. We have Judd Bannister. We have Stephen Marley. We're on the verge of getting the Skidmore picture. Now, Mr. Mayor, you were in contact with Doug Dayton's son, I believe, when you did the Munchmore Lane. If we could get a hold of him, we'd get a hold of him and get a picture of Doug Dayton. We have Kenny Westberg, and I'm sure we'll be able to get a picture of former Mayor Paul Rickenbach. But this one is for you, Mr. Mayor. Through Tommy Scott and Irene Scott, who knew Yvonne Rio, we have got a picture of Ronnie Rio.
It's terrific.
But now, using the new technology called email, I took a picture of the sign on Conklin Terrace, and I emailed it to Yvonne, and the response was, oh, yes, so good. My father would have been happy. All right. So she has that picture, and then I mailed her the remarks I gave when we did the presentation at the village board meeting. Okay. So now the 100th anniversary, you're absolutely correct. It was a perfect weekend. And the culminating event was the softball game between the Bonnick Native Sons and the Maidstone Mugwumps. But next year, the Native Sons are going to have to bring their own scorebook because Billy McKee was keeping score for the Mugwumps and he was cheating. Okay. And even though they didn't hit any home runs, the hitting stars of the Native Sons were the Brown family. Between Greg and his daughter Maggie, they got 7 hits in the game. And
Wow.
finally, I want to thank the village administrator for the King Alley. Okay, despite the honor and the village board for approving it, because what's happened is so many of my former students have gotten on Facebook that I've lost contact with, and maybe this winter, if I can get on Facebook, I'll be able to get in touch with them again. So that's one of the great outcomes of this. Okay, that's all I got. I'm going to be here, though. You're going to have Evie make a presentation about the project, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, very excited about that. So we have Evie Rattray, who is working on this project called the Plain Sight Project, which is about slavery that occurred on Long Island, but specifically the east end of Long Island and East Hampton, obviously. So, Evie, I'm going to let you take the show from here. Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Okay, so my name is Evie Rattray, and thank you so much for including us on the agenda today. I really appreciate the response that we have gotten so far. I'm here today on behalf of the Plain Sight Project, which is a 501c3. We started about 3 years ago to learn all we could about slavery in East Hampton. We have teamed with the Jewish Center of the Hamptons and Calvary Baptist Church on a trial effort to hopefully install 5 bronze markers in place of sidewalk bricks in several locations within East Hampton Village to help correct the record. As of today, we have uncovered the identities of about 250 people who were enslaved in East Hampton. Mostly they are of African roots, but there are also indigenous people captured by English colonists. The earliest record of an enslaved person in East Hampton is from about 1655, the latest from 1830. That means that slavery existed in East Hampton for roughly 175 years. There were more Black people on Main Street in 1721 than there are in 2021. Black Americans, both enslaved and free, worked side by side to build this town, the colonies, and the United States. Their contributions can no longer be overlooked. As a start, we want to honor 2 men, 2 women, and an infant child who were enslaved here, 1 marker per person. The markers would have their names and biographical information. More information would eventually be on a walking tour app. For some people, we know only a name or a date, like Jean, the infant girl who died in 1747. For others, we know a lot, like Ned, who was paid to ring the church bell starting in the late 18th century. There are many more, but we wanted to try this with a small number of bricks before considering further steps. Already, we know that some of our partners in Sag Harbor want to work with us on bricks there. We wanted to try it here in East Hampton first because this is where it all started. The bronze bricks will be entirely funded by us, the Jewish Center, and the Calvary Baptist Church. We would be responsible for their upkeep and replacing them if needed. We would want to work with the Village Public Works Department to make sure they are installed properly. We have initially proposed locations at the East Hampton Library, on the sidewalk at Mulford Farm, and near the corner of Woods Lane and Main Street. The descendants of enslaved people make up the majority of our advisory board. Our president, Donna Marie Barnes, is a descendant of people who had been enslaved on Barbados and is the curator at Sylvester Manor on Shelter Island, itself a major slavery site on the east end of Long Island. My own family is descended from enslavers here in East Hampton. Thank you for listening, and I hope we can get going on this important project soon.
Well, that was terrific. I think your dad sent over the PDF that has and the locations where you want to bring that up. You go over that with everybody or not?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. Do you mind?
I was saying your dad, I think, sent over the PDF that has all the locations. Do you want me to bring that up on the screen and you can go over that?
Sure.
Yeah, I just thought it would be helpful. So there's Jean.
Yeah. So over the summer.
And then you had the nice pictures attached, and then you can see where you want to put the brick, right? So.
Yeah.
in the
So-
pathway that basically goes from Main Street to the sidewalk right there. I think can everybody hear her or not? Is it me freezing?
I might have.
Maybe
that.
you, Jerry.
Am I okay now? Can you hear me? We're having some technical difficulties.
I can hear you, Mayor.
Yeah, can we hear Evie?
Yes.
Okay,
That's good.
I couldn't hear her for a minute. Should I go to the next one?
Sure.
This information is unbelievable. If you haven't read this yet, take a chance. I mean, take your time and read through it. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So Rose and Sharfer, who is underneath, were both enslaved and worked at the Mulford farm. And so I think that's why we chose that location. But the photos just show where on the brick pathway we thought would be a good place to put the markers.
And then you have this one.
Yeah.
Same thing. And then we're back to the library again.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it's a great idea. It's just unbelievable that you're even taking this on. And I think it's such a worthwhile program, and I wish you a lot of luck with it. And I can tell you right now, I can speak for the whole board. We're all in favor of this.
Oh, that's so amazing. Thank you so much.
But I'll let the board speak for themselves as well. But anyone?
Yes, I think we're all in favor, and thank you, Evie. It's really extensive research, and we're all really impressed, and this would be a nice way to honor these people. So thank you for taking the initiative, and really nice
guys
work.
so much.
Yeah, Evie, I agree. This is, when I read this,
With each kind of person, but just many, many, many more people.
Yeah, I think that I looked at the website, and I think it was something well over 700 people who have been identified as being slaves. It's just unbelievable. It's amazing. Really nice job.
Mayor, we should probably have the website put up on the village website so people can find it easily.
I was just going to ask you, Evie, with your permission, I'd like to share that PDF and kind of provide a link to the site project, if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Job well done,
Well,
Evie.
it's terrific. All right, so does anybody else from Evie's group want to speak to us, or are we good? Josh? Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for letting me listen. And Evie, we have an expression, Yasher Koch, means may you continue in your strength and your wisdom and continue to be our teacher. I don't have anything to add because Evie just killed it and knocked it out of the park. So thank you all for your support of this project. And it's going to, I think, do so much for the village.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I can't wait.
I just wanted to say it's great and it's an honor to be part of it. So thank you for including us.
Is Sandra on? Sandra?
Yes.
No, Sandra DeBoard. I'm talking Sandra Borpool. Yeah, I know you're on.
Yes, I'm here.
There
I'm
she
here.
is.
I'm here. I really, this is a great project that you're doing, and I am so proud. I can't wait to read all of the literature and, what you're doing. Our pastor had just sent out the Zoom address this morning, so I wasn't sure what it was about, but I'm glad that I happened to be going through stuff and found it, and I can't wait to read and learn more about what you're doing. I think it's a great thing. So thank you.
Great. Is that Evie? Thank you so much. Is there anything else before we go on to our next item?
I think that's all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. You're wonderful, and thanks for coming on and keep up this great work. All right, Marcos, I don't have the updated agenda. What do we have next?
Let's see, it's for the board's discussion. Tiger, you want to lead this off? We can start.
Well, I have the annual parking first.
It was the annual parking permits, but I thought if you wanted to start it off, that's fine, either or.
Well, basically, we have heard from many people that they wish that we would reinstate the annual parking permit, allowing people to park in the long-term lot. And I think the mayor is in favor of this.
Yeah, I did receive a lot of town residents that are inquiring about this. In the past, there was a year-round parking permit that allowed town residents to park in our long-term parking lot for a fee of $250 for the year. And when we updated to mobile park app, we did away with that permit and we created $10 a day for our long-term parking lot. And some people who frequent New York City for work or whatever, doctors, they are finding it a little too expensive for them to pay the $10 a day. So roughly, I think we had about 62 year-round permits that we issued at $250, which I don't think we have ever raised that fee. So I was with talking with a lot of these town residents, I felt that most of them agreed that maybe a $400 fee a year would be something more reasonable for them. And they understand where we're coming from. A lot of them didn't understand that they could park at the Amagansett train station, which is in the town of East Hampton, obviously, for free. But the problem is it's a 72-hour restriction. So after the 72 hours, you receive a parking ticket. So a lot of people, that didn't accommodate them as well as our long-term parking. So my recommendation would be to make it a $400 year-round parking fee. Anybody else on the board want to chime in?
I have no problem with that.
I think that if we're hearing from people that it was too expensive and they're not utilizing the parking because so, and they feel that 400, is that what you said was what you're proposing? And that would entitle them parking for a whole year anywhere in the long-term lot for the train or the bus. What about utilizing the Osborne Lane parking lot that really goes unused? I know we had talked at an earlier meeting about Tesla using it. I don't know where we stand with that, if that fell through or not, but that could be another option for us to explore as well, since it's so underutilized, as I think we all agree upon. But
no, that hasn't fallen. I apologize. No, that hasn't fallen through at all. They're just submitting all their paperwork to the building department for zoning. That's okay. Carrying on.
Okay, that is carrying on. But there are spots there too that we could consider using for the train and the annual parking permit too. But I have no problem with changing it, reverting it back to an annual fee instead of a day-to-day fee.
And again, that would only apply for the long-term lot. It would not apply to Railroad Avenue. I mean, that area along Railroad Avenue should really be reserved for village residents should they use the train. Right now, it's very empty over there, which is kind of nice. People aren't storing cars there.
You have the 30-minute there?
No, not the 30-minute. Beyond that, there's a 7-day parking along Lumber between Race and King Street. So it wouldn't apply to that area. It'd only be the long-term lot. So,
yeah, I agree with this too, Jerry. I think the only place we should have the long-term is in the long-term lot. So sounds good to me.
Okay. So
Does this need to go to a hearing, Mayor, or is this something we can just do?
By resolution?
Yeah, Vinny, I think we talked about this. I believe we can just do it by resolution. Correct, Vinny?
I think Lisa was on the call, Jerry, not Vinny.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Lisa.
Vinny signing
Oh,
in.
There's Vinny.
Sorry about that. I have a little Zoom difficulty this morning. I apologize. So I didn't hear the question, Mayor.
The long-term parking fee for town residents.
Yeah.
we were going to make a permit for $400 a month. I mean,
I heard.
$400 a year.
Right. I heard
And let's get that clear, $400 a year.
that.
So can we do that by resolution, or do we need a public hearing on that?
I honestly don't know the answer sitting here. Some lots are resolutions, some are amendments to the local law. So,
Okay. So why
I
don't
would-
we
I
do
would-
this? Why don't you?
I would think that we could pass a
that
resolution.
out.
Yeah, all right. And we could pass a resolution, and then, if something more is needed, then I'll backfill with it.
All right. Well, we're not going to do the resolution today. We do it
Oh,
next
okay.
week on the 15th.
That's fine. Then, yeah, I can have that
So-
ready for you for next week, whatever it is.
Okay. Perfect.
All
All right. Everybody good?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go on to the next. Tiger brought this up. For some of the smaller lots in the village, right now they're required, all lots in the village are required to have 2 parking spots when they build new homes. So Tiger brought up an interesting point that maybe we should be requiring more off-street parking, and some of the similar legislation in other municipalities require additional parking for additional bedrooms. So if you have more than 3 bedrooms, you would need more parking spots than 2. So we just want to talk about it before we make any decisions. So Tiger, why don't you start off?
Okay. I was looking at this. There are several streets in the village that have smaller lots and smaller parking areas. And I just think that, we need to encourage people to keep their vehicles on their property. And this is a way that we can, encourage people to create more on-site parking if they have more than 3 bedrooms. So a 3-bedroom house can have 2 parking spaces. For every bedroom over 3, it would need 1 more parking space on the property. So if you had a 5-bedroom house, you would need 4 parking spaces on your property. This is what they have in Sag Harbor, and it's worked very well up there. I spoke with Mr. Priato about this and Mr. Hajek, and I believe that they feel that it seems to work well there. I don't see why it wouldn't work well for us. And I don't think that we're going to be going back and taking people that only have 2 spaces and making them put in more parking. I think this is just going forward from here.
Anyone else?
I guess I had a question. I don't know if it's for code enforcement or for the police, but have we had a lot of complaints or problems with street parking? Jerry, do we know?
We just went over this at, I don't know, the last meeting or meeting before. Tiger had raised it early in the summer about the overnight parking issues, and we had the police department do a presentation and keep the numbers of overnight vehicles that are parked overnight on the streets. And it didn't seem to be a problem from the chief's presentation. So does that answer your question?
I mean, my thought is I'm a little caught in the middle with my feelings, because I agree that we want to try to keep some cars off the street. But on the other hand, I hate to change a law or make code when there's not a problem. Do you know what I mean? We're just making things a little bit more difficult when, I would, in some circumstances, rather create code when we have a problem to fix the problem. If we don't have a problem right now, I don't want to create something that's more restrictive when maybe it's not necessary. Again, I say maybe. I do know that on certain roads, like the road that Tiger lives on and some of the lanes in this area of north of Newtown, I guess, has it a little worse than others. But maybe it's a area issue, not so much a village-wide issue. I don't know.
I would agree with you, Chris, that it's probably the smaller lots, the smaller neighborhoods like Mill Hill, McGurk Street, Conklin, and so forth. But to follow your rationale about, trying to change something that we're not getting complaints on, I was surprised last meeting to hear that we're not enforcing the overnight parking and that we are considering changing that and allowing it. Because I think that, first of all, most people think that we are still enforcing it. It's posted, on every village street when you enter from the town, that there's no parking in excess of 1 hour between 2 and 6 a.m. And to me, since it's posted and it's in our code on the books, I think most people, like myself until last meeting, thought that we were enforcing it. And if we are to reverse that, I think that we could see a proliferation of cars utilizing the streets for their parking of their own personal cars, whether they're going into the city and it's near the train station. I mean, we just heard from the mayor that some people feel that, the $10 a day was too much money to spend for parking. They'll try to utilize the street to do so. So I was going to bring that question up today, where we stand with the overnight parking. I mean, I realized that with COVID in March of 2020, we relaxed that because of the worldwide pandemic and the situation where a lot of people were coming out here and multiple families living in one home and so forth. But I am concerned if we were to change that. And that's been on the books for a very long time. And I don't, following your rationale, why change something that's working? We haven't had any complaints about the overnight parking, and it seemed safe. I have some concerns about that safety and so forth if we were to allow that.
And Chris, to address your point about if we don't have a problem, why are we working on this? I think that what I'm trying to do with this suggestion is we're trying to head off a problem. All right. I don't think we want people parking on the street, and encouraging them to have more on-site parking probably reduces the likelihood that we will have a problem. And if we have to fix a problem that we have to go back and didn't anticipate, that's one thing. But if we have anticipated a problem and then didn't do anything about it, I think we're not doing our job as a deliberative board.
Tiger, I understand what you're saying completely. And I agree with your theory. My only thought is that, you can look at it both ways to say, hey, maybe we can fix a potential problem, or you can look at it as, why are we changing something that's not broken yet? So, I think we both have the same, we're looking at it the same way, but from the different sides.
Yeah, I think, Chris, it may be broken and maybe becoming more broken as people try and maximize the lawn space in their house. They've been removing driveways. They've been converting garages to, not accessory structures, but like another outdoor space. I know the house next door to me used to have a garage and a driveway leading back to it, and now the driveway stops at the front of the house. I think it's
bagpipes.
Yeah, that's my ringtone on my cell. I think it's the auto warranty department calling me. But I just think that this is something that, we can kind of head off a little bit.
I believe we should look into it. I know the restrictions we were not enforcing it as much because of the pandemic, but the community could have called if they had a problem. The police would be getting the complaints if there was a parking problem. So I think it's something we have to look at it, but I'm also thinking that we're trying to fix something that doesn't need fixing. If there is no complaints, if everything has been okay now that we haven't been enforcing it, I don't think we should just go ahead and create new code. I think we should just look into it and keep an eye on it.
Yeah, there's kind of two different issues here. The issue Tiger brought up was about requiring new homes basically to require more off-street parking. And what Rose brought up is a law that we have on the books about overnight parking. So that's really not on the agenda. So we just want to focus on the ZBA issue. And I personally, I mean, it's only going to affect the small lots because obviously the larger lots have much more parking area because the driveways are usually much longer to get to the house. So you automatically create more parking at that point. So we're really just talking about the small lots. And we obviously don't have a problem at this point. And I understand Chris's
You're breaking up, Mayor. We can't hear you.
And the other thing I'm thinking about is if you start creating all these additional parking, that drive down these little streets.
We really can't hear you, Mayor.
And see all parking areas and no. And wait a little how things go. Anyone else?
I couldn't really hear you, Mr. Mayor, with your comments.
You cut out completely. You have a bad connection, Mr. Mayor.
I would agree that, we want to be reasonable with the driveways. We certainly don't want to see huge driveways, and there has to be a balance between the size of the house and the lot and the driveway size and the legislation. And as Tiger pointed out, I think in the village of Sag Harbor and the village of Sagaponack, in excess of 3 bedrooms, you're required to produce, another space in your driveway for your cars. So the, reasoning behind the law is that you can accommodate the number of cars you have in your house on your own property. And, I realize that it's more appealing to have landscaping and lawn and so forth than, a bigger driveway, but we want to make sure that it's safe and that people can accommodate their own cars, in their own driveway on their own property. But we will see with the public, we could put it to a public hearing and get feedback from the public, and, that should guide our decision-making.
Yeah, I like your comments, Rose. And what I said, I think I was cut off. Jamie sent me a little. I was saying I don't want to drive down the little lots, the little streets, and see all parking areas, which you
Agreed.
just said the same. And so for that reason, I'd be against it right now. We don't have a problem. We already did this in August. We found out, our busiest month of the year, August, we had no issues with overnight, with cars being parked out on the streets. So I would suggest we hold off, but certainly we could go to a public hearing and hear what the public has to say.
So would we be talking about the driveway, increasing the driveway space, or are we also going to be talking about overnight parking? Because if we want to change overnight parking, that's fine. We should put it to a public hearing because as of now, it's in our code, so we would have to do that if we want to reverse it on a permanent basis going forward, correct?
Well, we need to look at the overnight park. I've been looking at this overnight parking law for the last 20 years. It hasn't really worked. I know you say it works, but from the police point of view and from the homeowner's point of view, it does not work. We have permitted inns or rooming houses that we had on Newtown Lane at one time that they're allowed to be an inn, but they didn't have the parking spaces for their clients. So we had to come up with a formula, some way to deal with this to allow them to park. And the law that's currently on the books is very poorly written, to say the best. It kind of allows people to park on the shoulders of the road without getting a summons, which is still the public right-of-way, which then destroys the lawn, which then the highway department has to go back and fix. So it needs to be a better law. And the way it's not posted very well, it's posted at the village the beginning of each village road, which isn't really going to stand up in a court of law. So to issue summonses, somebody could easily get it dismissed because there's no sign in front of their home. So there's a lot of issues with that law. So when the pandemic struck, the previous village board, or actually, no, I'm sorry, I waived it when I took office because there were a lot of families that were using their homes and needed the extra parking. So,
And Mayor, I just want to add too, even
well,
before you came in.
I don't know if
we
you could tell. I don't know if you could tell I was still talking. I don't know with my internet connection.
Sorry,
it's hard
you're in
to-
and out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With my internet connection, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to
tell.
correct that though.
What were you correcting?
That the previous board during the pandemic had relaxed the overnight parking. And of course, we were not enforcing that during that time because of so many people.
That's not true. That's not true, Rose. That's
well,
absolutely wrong.
That's what I had heard. Only, maybe a warning, no ticket summonses were written for that during that time.
But it wasn't, what I'm saying is I put it into the executive law, my executive order, I should say, that we were waiving overnight parking. So during that time period, it was discovered that there really isn't a problem with people parking on the street overnight. So I think at this point, we have that data and we're going to move forward and we should look at creating a different overnight parking law. But we need to take a little time and look at it. And to your point that the law is on the books and it should be enforced, there are many, many laws that are on the books that are not enforced.
My point, and I want to be clear, my point is if we're serious about reversing this and changing it, that's something that we should do formally. It was my point about the overnight parking. If we want to relax that in some way, and I agree with you that it's probably not going to be a blanket law. There's going to be idiosyncrasies, based on, the neighborhood that we're talking about, a curb street, not a curb street, and so forth. But just, we need to clarify how we're proceeding.
So why don't we put it on to our next, not the next agenda, we'll do it in November, and then everybody can take a look at that law. We're talking about the overnight parking law now, and come up with some suggestions on how it should be better written.
Thank you. That's exactly what I had in mind.
All right. So why don't we do that? And let's go back to Tiger's, go back to the agenda and about the off-street parking spaces for zoning. So do we want to move that to a public hearing?
I would like to see what the public has to say about it. It may turn out to be incredibly unpopular, and therefore we wouldn't pass it.
Okay, so why don't we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to say, both issues kind of go a little hand in hand, to Trustee Brown's point. However, when you think about a house that has 4 or 5 bedrooms in it in the smaller lanes, I would say most of them already have 3 to 4 parking spots. So maybe this is not really that large of an issue. And maybe again, Tiger might have someone on his street. I might have someone on my street. I mean, there are offenders of this problem every now and then. But I don't think, like, moving forward, as Trustee Graham mentioned, if someone's going to completely renovate or someone's going to completely build in the village, I mean, the price tag of that is so astronomical, where I highly doubt there's going to be 2 parking spots. Again, I'm not building it, but it doesn't seem like, I'm thinking about my road right now. Maybe there's one person with a driveway that can only accommodate 2 cars, possibly. So I don't know if this is such a big deal. However, I'd be more than happy to see what everyone else thinks or what the public thinks, because, it's their village too. So.
All right, great. So let's just schedule it for a public hearing. Let's see what the public has to say.
Okay.
All right. What's next on the agenda? Didn't we have some add-on? This internet.
No. No,
Nothing?
that's it.
It's for executive session, sorry. Okay. The board, we're all set? So before we close this meeting, I just want to let the public know we're going to go to executive session. And if there's anything after that, I'll notify the press. Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
We'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Great. Thanks, everybody, and meeting's closed.